Fans and drivers are not furious because Silverstone finished behind the safety car. They are furious because Formula One looked confused by its own ending. Max Verstappen spun out of third place at Stowe on lap 48. The safety car came out. Charles Leclerc led George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. The race looked frozen. Then, on the penultimate lap, the message appeared. Safety car in this lap. For one moment, Silverstone thought it was getting the final lap everyone wanted. One last restart. One last chance. Ferrari against Mercedes. Leclerc under pressure. Russell and Hamilton ready to attack. Then the message was cancelled. No restart. No final fight. Just 3 cars crossing the line in formation, and millions of fans asking the same question. What just happened? And when the FIA explained that the message appeared by mistake because of a software error, the anger exploded. Because this was not just a boring finish. It was a trust problem. At 200 miles per hour, drivers cannot question safety car instructions. They have to obey instantly. And if the system can send the wrong message at the most important moment of the British Grand Prix, then fans and drivers have every reason to ask one terrifying question. Is Formula One's race control still clear enough for the speed of the sport? Subscribe to the channel. To understand why Silverstone made fans and drivers explode, you have to start with the one thing the safety car is supposed to do. It is supposed to remove uncertainty. That is its entire purpose. When the safety car comes out, the race stops being a pure fight for position. The drivers slow down. The field compresses. The leader controls the pace. The teams switch from attack mode to procedure mode. Everyone knows the same basic truth. The race is neutralized. Nobody should be guessing. Nobody should be interpreting. Nobody should be wondering whether the instruction on the screen is real. And that is exactly why the Silverstone finish felt so wrong. Because for a few seconds, Formula One's most important safety instruction looked unclear. Max Verstappen's spin at Stowe on lap 48 had already changed everything. He had been running third, and suddenly the race was under the safety car. Charles Leclerc was leading. George Russell was second. Lewis Hamilton was third. The British Grand Prix was sitting on the edge of a possible final lap restart, the kind of ending that can turn a race into history. Then the message appeared. Safety car in this lap. That message is not casual. It is not background information. It tells the leader to prepare the restart. It tells the cars behind to wake up the tires, manage the brakes, charge the battery, and get ready for one last attack. It tells the teams that the race is about to switch from controlled formation back into full combat. For the fans, it was the moment the whole race suddenly came alive again. Ferrari leading. Mercedes chasing. Silverstone waiting. 1 lap left. The emotional charge of that message was enormous. Then it vanished. The restart was cancelled. The cars stayed in formation. Leclerc crossed the line to win behind the safety car, with Russell and Hamilton behind him, and the moment that had been promised disappeared before it happened. That is where frustration became fury. Because fans can accept a race ending behind the safety car if the process is clear. They may not like it, but they can understand it. Danger on track. Not enough time to restart. Race ends neutralized. It is disappointing, but it is explainable. What they cannot accept is being shown the signal for a restart, then being told moments later that the signal was wrong. That feels different. It feels like the sport opened the door to a final battle, then admitted the door should never have opened at all. And for drivers, the problem was even more serious. Because they do not experience that message like fans do. Fans see drama. Drivers see instruction. A driver does not receive safety car information as entertainment. He receives it as command. If the safety car is coming in, he must prepare instantly. Tires need temperature. Brakes need temperature. The battery matters. The launch point matters. The gap to the car ahead matters. The mirrors matter. The driver behind matters. Everything changes. So when that message is wrong, the driver has already been pushed into a different mental state. Ready to race. Ready to defend. Ready to attack. Then the race is not restarting after all. That is not just awkward. It is destabilizing. And in Formula One, destabilizing safety communication is a dangerous thing. This is why the FIA's explanation became so controversial. They said the safety car procedure had technically been followed, but the safety car in this lap message appeared erroneously because of a software error. That sentence may explain the mechanism. It does not erase the damage. Because the fury is not only about whether the rulebook was followed. The fury is about whether the people watching, the teams operating, and the drivers inside the cars could trust what they were being told in real time. That is the difference between a technical answer and a sporting answer. A technical answer says the procedure was followed. A sporting answer has to explain why the final lap still felt confusing. And at Silverstone, they did feel confusing. That is why this controversy landed so hard. Formula One sells itself on precision. Everything is measured. Every sector. Every gap. Every pit stop. Every tire temperature. Every tiny speed difference in the pit lane. The sport lives on details so small most people could never see them with the naked eye. But in one of the biggest moments of the British Grand Prix, the message that mattered most was wrong. That contradiction is powerful. Because if Formula One can measure tiny margins with extreme seriousness, fans expect the basic safety car message to be correct. Especially at Silverstone. This is one of the fastest circuits on the calendar. The cars are not crawling around a parking lot. They are running on a track where speed, distance, and reaction time matter enormously. When a safety car procedure changes, every driver needs the same clarity at the same moment. No hesitation. No mixed signals. No confusion. That is why drivers and fans ended up on the same side. Fans were furious because the ending felt stolen. Drivers were furious because the instruction felt unreliable. Different emotions. Same root problem. Trust. And once trust becomes the conversation, the FIA has a much bigger issue than one glitch. Because this did not happen in a calm season. Silverstone arrived after months of controversy around officiating, penalties, measurement systems, and review processes. That matters because one confusing finish can be dismissed as an unfortunate mistake. But one confusing finish after a series of controversies starts to look like a pattern. And patterns are what damage credibility. Monaco had already created a storm. Pierre Gasly finished third on track, then received 2 5-second penalties for tiny pit lane speeding margins. The reported excesses were only 0.1 km per hour and 0.4 km per hour over the 60 km per hour limit. That is already painful. But then the situation became explosive when Alpine successfully argued that Formula One's pit lane distance measurement was inaccurate. The error was roughly 77 centimeters. Gasly was reinstated to third, while other teams questioned the wider consequences. McLaren and Red Bull lodged intent to appeal. Mercedes sought its own right of review. Suddenly, fans were not simply arguing about a penalty. They were arguing about whether the measurement system behind the penalty was reliable. That is why Monaco matters to Silverstone. Because both controversies touch the same nerve. Can Formula One's official systems be trusted? At Monaco, the question came from timing and measurement. At Silverstone, it came from safety car messaging. Different incidents. Same fear. If the official system is wrong, the race can be shaped by something other than racing. That is what fans hate. And it is what drivers fear. Drivers can lose because another driver was faster. They can lose because a strategy failed. They can lose because a safety car came out at the wrong time, if the procedure is clear and correct. That is racing fortune, and Formula One has always had it. But losing because a message was wrong, or because a measurement was inaccurate, feels much worse. It feels like the system interfered. And once people feel the system is interfering, every result becomes harder to accept. That is what 2026 has been building toward. The FIA had already raised right of review and protest fees from €2,000 to €20,000, a roughly 900% increase, to discourage frivolous challenges. That kind of change tells you the governing body knew the protest environment was becoming intense. But raising fees does not fix the deeper problem if the controversies come from official errors. If teams protest because they are trying their luck, higher fees can slow that down. But if teams protest because timing loops, measurements, or race control messages are genuinely being questioned, then the issue is not the price of a protest. The issue is trust in the system. That is where the FIA now finds itself. The Silverstone finish was not only controversial because of the safety car. It was controversial because it confirmed the mood already spreading through the paddock and the fan base. People are tired of needing a post-race explanation to understand what they just watched. That is a real problem. Formula One can be complicated. Fans accept that. Strategy is complicated. Tires are complicated. Hybrid systems are complicated. Regulations are complicated. But the finish of a race should not feel like a mystery that needs a legal and technical briefing before anyone knows how to feel. At Silverstone, the emotional arc broke. The crowd thought there might be one final lap. The message said the safety car was coming in. Then it was cancelled. Then the race ended in formation. Then the FIA had to explain that the message was a software error. That is not a clean climax. That is confusion followed by clarification. And clarification after the race does not give fans back the moment they thought they were getting. It does not give drivers back the certainty they needed in the moment. That is why Leclerc's own reaction mattered. Even as the winner, he admitted he wished for a more normal ending. That is a powerful detail. Because the driver who benefited most from the finish still understood that the ending did not feel satisfying. He won the British Grand Prix, but the race did not give him the kind of finish a driver dreams of. No final green flag defense. No clean last lap showdown. No pure moment where the winner fights to the line under racing conditions. Instead, he crossed under safety car conditions while the world was trying to understand why the restart message had appeared. That is not how a dramatic win is supposed to breathe. Russell's response was more resigned. He said it was a shame for any race to finish behind the safety car, then referenced Abu Dhabi 2021 by saying that is just how racing goes. Hamilton agreed with him. That reference tells you everything. Because Abu Dhabi 2021 still lives in Formula One memory as the symbol of a race ending consumed by safety car procedure controversy. When a modern Silverstone finish makes drivers and fans think back to that moment, the FIA has a perception problem. Even if the situations are not identical. Even if the regulation explanation is different. Even if Silverstone's official answer is that the procedure was followed and the message was a software error. The emotional association is still damaging. Because Formula One fans do not just remember outcomes. They remember how those outcomes felt. And Silverstone felt unclear. That is the issue. Not just what the FIA says happened. How the ending landed. For fans, it landed like a stolen final lap. For drivers, it landed like a warning about communication. For the FIA, it landed like another chapter in a season already described as unusually contentious. That is why the Fury united people who usually argue about everything. Ferrari fans wanted Leclerc's win to be celebrated cleanly. Mercedes fans wanted the chance for Russell or Hamilton to fight at the restart.